Welcome back, everybody. We're here for our March Culture Chat with Steve Geller, the wonderfully brilliant, innovative former New Yorker. So East Coaster moved over to West Coast, which really got Steve and I connected from the beginning. Steve has a company, Workplace for Humans, where the main focus is on happiness. Are you happy today? And how can I make things better for you? How can I make you happier? So welcome, Steve. Thanks for joining us today to talk about AI.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's I'm I, I've watched a bunch of your previous podcasts. I've always learned things. You have great guests, and I'm happy to be here to talk about this topic, which is different than all other topics that I've seen you talk about because there's nobody that really knows what's going to happen here, because it's all about the future. And it's going to be a big guess, and hopefully we can uncover some thoughts and ideas to help people guide their way through this the next however many years that this transition period happens.
Well, awesome. So tell us your thoughts about how AI is going to change how we interact in the workplace as humans.
Well, it's a big question. And I think our I know
Let's
that our
go. Dive right in.
dive right in. Okay, I think I'll impart some wisdom. So
Yes.
I think that we don't really want to talk about the technology part of this in this discussion. I don't think that, at least that's not what I'm
Right.
interested. I'm really interested in what will it feel like to be a human going into work where your colleague, so to speak, is not human, and what is that going to be like, and what happens between now and then? How do we help companies transition through the period of having AI be a collaborator, a colleague with humans, especially as AI becomes more humanoid. It's going to happen that you'll have a thing, a robot, a humanoid robot that looks quite human in the near future. They have them already, and they will be able to mimic emotional intelligence, and they'll be super smart. And what is that going to be like when that happens? And what happens between now and then? So, I think if I kind of want to break it down, what isn't going to change is the human aspect. Humans will always be driving this train, and it's a matter of where they drive it and how they collaborate, how much they integrate AI into their leadership, into their management, into the fabric of their company. Instead of saying AI is over here and humans are over here, it's really a collaboration. So I think of it like this: if we were a cup of water now, and I had some blue dye, you can have a cup of water and blue dye. But if you pour the blue dye into the cup of water, you have one thing, and that's the way I think we should think about AI integrating into into the workplace. What I don't think is going to change is what gets people to do their finest work. And if we kind of break that down, the science tells us that what gets people to do their finest work is that the happiest people do their best work. They do their finest work. And what makes people the happiest are two things. It's their it's the sense of community, it's community, and it's the ability to make a positive impact in that community, create a positive change. Those things are human. They're human to us, and that is not going to change. And the more we could um, bring that out of people, the more we can enable that in people, the better work they'll do. The workplace is going to change a lot, but whatever winds up in the end, that's still going to be true. And what will happen along the way will be a transition period, and it will not be pretty, most likely. There will be lots of changes in jobs, um, and reskilling and retraining needed to other jobs. And we see this when every single technology comes into play.
That's right.
But in the end, every single technology, there's always more jobs at the end of it. After the
Right.
dust settles, there's
Yeah.
more jobs. It's happened with everything. It's happened with production lines from Henry
Yeah.
Ford.
We
It's
were worried
happened with
that PCs were going to take care and we were going to work less. and not
Yeah.
have as many jobs. Not only are there plenty of jobs, they're different jobs, but we work more and harder than ever.
And it's going to happen again. But this transition period will be bumpy. And I don't want to spend too much time thinking about that, but I'm happy to talk to you about that. It will be bumpy. People will be reskilled, retrained. In the end, there'll be more jobs. And there'll probably be more people in the world, but there'll be more jobs. And if we keep focusing on integrating AI into the network and the fabric of the company, the better off we will be, and the better off the human experience will be. It's at first when I started looking into this, I thought, oh, this is going to be a terrible human experience, but it's actually not. It's going to be a better human experience. It just has to be done smartly. It will
Well,
be.
it doesn't have to be a bad human experience. It
Right.
could be.
Exactly.
It could
It
be.
could be.
Yeah.
It will be. It will be.
But
It will
doesn't
be
have
different.
to bring this
Right.
new colleague into the workplace, and I really like how you said that.
Right. It will be
another colleague.
different.
I love
will
that
be-
too.
It will be different because if you think about the cell phone, well, let me just, I'm 60, almost 67 years old. So when I see my nieces and nephews recycle, they don't think about this is plastic, it goes here, this is garbage, it goes here, this is paper,
Yeah.
it goes here.
They
But
just
when I was growing up, I didn't have that. I think about plastic, okay, here. It's so much, it's not natural. The same thing with cell phones. You see kids in the last 10 years grow up on cell phones. They know how to work this thing. I'm still, and I've been in the tech industry for 30 years. I'm still trying to figure out certain things like what's going on here, right? They have grown up with it, so it's not different. And it won't be different for kids that are born 10 years from now when they grow up with a humanoid in their house that watches over them, that cleans the bathroom, that cooks for them.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Although there's that show on Apple. Are you watching that show on Apple, Sunny?
Cassandra. Oh, maybe there's one on Netflix.
But they
called
got the
Cassandra,
droid,
which is the same
and it's
thing.
scary.
Yeah. And can I say that I actually think that that's part of the problem, right? And you kind of were alluding to this, like it doesn't have to be bad, but I think what we've done, and I think where some organizations might be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, is there is this idea of thinking productivity. What can we automate to get rid of people? What can we automate to get rid of people? And I think nobody's looking at this as a full kind of picture, right? And really, where do I want my organization to be? What am I hoping to, what is our mission and vision, for what we will do, what we can accomplish in the world, and then how does AI help that? Because the thought that you're just going to reduce your workforce and then put in some AI and then, hey, good, everything's good, I think might be a little bit, what's that? I forgot the
Short-sighted?
phrase that. Yeah, but it's just like fairy tale. Like that's not how it's going to go. A bunch of new needs are going to unfold for your organization that are likely to require humans. Even managing these technologies, your colleagues, if you will, is going to come up and require either new talent or certainly upskilled talent. I think part of the challenge is everybody is sort of thinking about this as like the robots are taking over. And I don't think organizations are doing themselves any favors because they're sort of pushing that kind of narrative in this, effort to think about productivity. But I think if we can take a step back and just like we've mentioned this, we've mentioned the PC, the internet. Oh my gosh, when the internet was coming out, first of all, it was going away. And I was like, I don't think it's going away, folks. And then it was like all hell's going to break loose because now the internet is here. You're never going to need a brick and mortar store. You're never going to. And it's like, none of that's true. None of that's true. Maybe a little bit, maybe somewhat, but also what are the opportunities that opened up because of it?
Yeah, I totally agree, and you hit on some really good points. I think that from the AI is really good at productivity. It is good at that. It's good at data analysis, and it's good at integrating a lot of different bits of information in a very sort of analytic way. And that ability will really help align companies with hundreds of people who have different KPIs, right? And all of that will be integrated, and they'll be able to say, hey, look, there's an outage here, or this needs to be aligned, or that's off course. and it will be done in real time, where now we can't do that as humans in real time. There's too much information, there's too many
right.
managers and people all over the place, but it will be done in real time. It will also be able to analyze our communication and see where people are, not engaged. And as we do things, see what causes more engagement and help us figure that out. Where now it's not so easy to figure that out in a sort of a scientific way. But I think a key thing will be the fabric of a company is going to change. Maybe fabric's not the right word. But what's going to happen is because AI is really good at all these sort of productivity things. And let's give it to them. Give it to your humanoid partner to do that. We don't want to do that, right? That's easy. That's easy for them to do. Let's use us for our highest and best use, right? Which are the things that you two are great at and amazing at, which is all of the leadership, the emotional intelligence, all of the things that go into that and also the ability to have that human spark and creativity and complex thinking that AI cannot do. AI cannot do that, and I don't know if it can ever do that. And the point that I really want to make here is that what's going to happen in organizations, smart organizations, and the one that do this first will win. The ones that stop talking about productivity and talk about purpose, right? And we have to talk about purpose as a key driver, because that is one of the things in a community. Making a positive change is a purpose, right? And we need to look at the smartest companies will go back to their values and their philosophies, and they'll go back and they'll think about, which very few of them really do, go back and think about, how does my organization impact society as a whole? How does my leadership impact society as a whole? How does what we do impact society as a whole? It's not about productivity or profit. Those things are a byproduct of purpose now, and this is what's going to happen, because we're going to push all of the smart companies will push all of the productivity, the heavy lifting of that onto AI, and we'll be left with having to be driven by purpose, right? And so we need to be able to take it from a purpose. We'll need to have a higher purpose for the company, not just we donate to, Red Cross or something, whoever their foundations, but a real societal purpose. People need to have a path to good, to doing service for humanity, and they need to integrate this into their organization. And so they might do things when they do their performance review. They have to do an evaluation of, how does somebody feel about their purpose? Like what was meaningful to you about this? And did you see yourself aligning with the purpose? And what would make you align? How would your work align closer or tighter with purpose in the next quarter, or whenever that review happens? And I think these are our key guidance for organizations over the next 10 years or however long it is, to start changing how they think about what's driving their employees. And it's not going to be about productivity, but it could be, for instance, now you might say, we increased sales by 15%. In a review, it might be, you increased sales by 15%, which allowed local and small businesses in marginalized communities to do whatever they did to the benefit of social good. That's how we're going to have to start talking about what people are doing and aligning people with a purpose.
Yeah, and I think so much of what you said there too resonates with not necessarily AI, right? The most engaged employees, the folks that feel the most connected to their company, are the ones that are aligned with the mission. Their why is aligned with the why of the organization. They can actually see what they do every day making an impact on the organizational goals. Some companies are good at doing this. In my experience, most are not, in connecting what people do day to day into what those bigger organizational goals are. And that is the differentiator, and that is something all three of us are quite adept at
Yeah.
helping leadership do. But
And I think too, like in line with that, I think, and we'll just talk about generations for a second. I think you're finding that Gen Z, who is the next workforce coming up, is saying, I want
a must.
purpose. I do not want I
That's
do not
table
want
stakes.
just some nine exactly. I don't want just some 9 to 5 job. It has to mean something. It has to matter to me. So I think to your point, Steve, any organization who is thinking about 5 to 10 years up the road is already starting to figure out how we get better aligned to our own mission and vision. We're the one, you as an organization are the ones who develop your mission, develop your vision. You put that out there, right? And so you're going to attract people who are interested in that. And I think you got to start to hire for people who are interested in that. Now, I prefer organizations that are interested in social good, who are trying to figure out how they give back. But even for the organizations that aren't, they still have to follow this same path and pattern, right? Why do you exist? So I think there's the connection internally with your employees and making sure you've got the right people on board that align with that their values align with the corporate values. But I think you also have to think about your customers and what kind of customers you're targeting. We can see that happening right now, right? Where people are literally shopping with their values. They're spending their dollars based on their values. Or if I say it the other way, they're not spending dollars with people who aren't aligning to their values. And so I think, one, it's going to start to hold organizations accountable to, like, this is what you say you do, now do it. Two, I think, and this is what I think is actually most interesting, is if ever you get to go and look at employee engagement scores, go and speak with employees, particularly with employees who are doing repetitive tasks, they actually have really great ideas. They have great ideas on how to improve your business, on how to connect better with your customers. On, at the end of the day, businesses are in business to drive revenue, how to drive more revenue to your organization. There's no time for them to speak or help or impart that wisdom or implement new programs because they're widgeting. And so this is going to open up an opportunity for these people that have been sitting and have most of your amazing institutional knowledge to come and innovate and be creative for your company to help you be competitive in this next decade. Even if today you don't know what AI looks like for you, this piece you can start to work on right now, right?
Yeah, AI will relieve us of a lot of the repetitive lower level quote lower level tasks, and allow people to be used at their highest and best uses, which you are talking about. The creative, the spark, the innovative ideas, and solving those problems that are complex, multi-phase problems that AI isn't so good at, and we can still integrate a kind of a broader spectrum of higher level thinking than AI can do right now. AI is really good at telling you what will happen next week. It's not really good at telling you what's going to happen in 10 years from now. That needs our spark.
Doesn't have the data.
Yeah, it doesn't have the data to look back on. That needs our spark. And that's what really drives success of companies, right? And what to do next, and the path of a company. But I think you touched on some interesting things. If I could, I just want to go back to the idea that purpose is going to replace productivity, and we can't just give this lip service. We have to do real things. Like I was thinking, like purpose sabbaticals. People need to have some time off to use their skill sets and go out and help do for social good, right? They need a purpose. I think companies that do these sorts of creating things will be winners. Purpose incubators, like you're talking about. Let's just take some time out and think of creative ideas. Take some time out away from the daily work and think of creative ideas, not having to do any productivity tasks, and have a group incubator. And the reason why it needs to be a group incubator is because the forces, and this is sort of another point that we need to get over this hurdle, which is the forces that are going to be on an organization, which is a combination right now of productivity and profits, are going to, AI will allow for more isolation and more remote work. And that is problematic when it comes to building community. That is opposite, in a way, of building community. Now, people say you can get community online, but that isn't the same. You can get, but that doesn't replace the human-to-human contact, which is what makes us human, right? This heartfelt contact, and also inspires us. And that can't be replaced. So we're going to have to take very intentional steps to make sure that people are still feeling that and getting that human-to-human contact. There's no doubt that you will have a humanoid working with you, in my mind, that will be doing tasks, including bringing you coffee, but will also be doing your productivity work. Now, this is
I
interesting.
still want to make my own latte. Because that's what gives me purpose.
This is. I'm going to send you a Starbucks gift card. There's no doubt that interaction with AI right now, as it is on your computer, makes you feel something, right? At least for me and many people I talk to, I kind of say thank you to it, right? I say good morning to it. I also, when I challenge it, and it says, you're absolutely right, I didn't think about that, blah, 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 I feel good.
You feel good, yeah.
I feel good. The emotional connection with, AI or humanoid doesn't count for nothing. It counts for something. It will be able to mimic emotional intelligence. And it could almost do it now. In fact, it could probably do it now. It can mimic emotional intelligence, but we know that it's not the same, right? So it counts for this much. We need to have this much. And that only comes from human-to-human contact. And companies, organizations will have to figure out a way, and I've got some ideas, how to figure out a way to make sure people get that. And it has to be intentional, because it's not just around the water cooler anymore. Yeah. If people are working kind of more remotely, there's no water cooler interaction. So what do you do? How do you do this? And I think it is really critical to intentionally get people together. For whatever purpose, get people together. That will count for a lot. Whether you do that by having people come to headquarters, or whether you do that by having these distributed smaller offices where people show up so they don't have to commute so long, and they don't necessarily have to be people in your department, but they are humans that work in the same company with the same goal, with the same higher purpose. That counts for a lot. So we're going to have to get creative about how do we actually get,
well, even that higher purpose, right? Maybe it's around partnerships too, right? Like if it is more about purpose, then these small hubs of purpose partners. What you're saying is bringing up a lot for me here. We had Rick Heck on last month to talk about loneliness and the importance of, yes, of course, virtually we all do the thing. We're getting more used to that through COVID, but we've certainly seen the ramifications of people not being physically connected. And Andie and I were in the middle of writing a book, and we were researching on like that physical touch. Like you need that physical connection, and when we hug or shake hands or whatever, for that not to be dismissed on how important these things are in connections. So
I think that's so fast. I was just having this conversation yesterday, and we were talking about just this disconnection from of community. So we really have sort of built this individualistic kind of lifestyle. What's in it for me, right? How does it impact me? If it's all about me, I need to get over on the road right now because I got somewhere to be. I don't care what's happening behind me. I need to do this work so that I can get my promotion. We've become so individualistic, and it's an antithesis. I'm not a sociologist by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we can see throughout human history, this is a fairly new thing for us to be this disconnected. We usually sit in communities. We don't send, people off to our elders sit and are part of our community, right? Whether you're the sick person, you're still part of the community. We have sort of said, and I was talking to someone here, I'm in Jamaica currently, and kids still sleep with parents. Kids sleep with mom and dad in their bed, and it is not a weird thing, and it goes on. And I'm like, we've been taught in America, like, you don't, that's weird. You don't have your kids in your bed with you. And I'm like, it's such a first world kind of thing to be able to say, because one, in most places in the world, people don't have multiple bedrooms. And then two, how disconnected are we to say that a whole human being who literally does not have the capacity to sit up, say anything, do anything, should just be off on their own trying to figure it out, right? It says so much about where we are culturally. And I think both of you hit on such an important factor, and that is, you can never sort of replace the idea, and I don't mean online community, I mean community, where if you get sick, people are coming to your house and they're bringing the soup and they're checking in on you and they're doing the stuff, right? And I think we're so far off from that we have to fix that piece, because in the workspace, there's no chance for us to be connected in the workspace if we don't get connected in our personal space first.
Right, and how we do that is the challenge, right? That's the
Big
challenge. It's going to be a creative, problem solving that's going to happen, and it's not going to come down to, how much does it cost to get everybody together, or how much does it cost to have 5 offices in New York instead of one in Manhattan, so people only have to drive a half hour.
That's right.
And could work with, 50 people in each office instead of 250 in one in Manhattan. Right, and people are commuting 3 hours a day back and forth. We need to change our thinking about that. Organizations that do that the fastest will win. They will
100%.
win all the time. The ones that think about human first organizations, we call it employee first organizations, but humanity first organizations, the ones that also can figure out, create their own path to social good, about how to do that and contribute to that, and have that be pushed down at the individual level, so people are feeling that sense of community. Helping each other, that's social good. When somebody brings you soup when you're sick, that makes the person that brings you the soup feel as good as it does the person that's sick.
100%.
And that's what makes people happy. Happiest people do their finest work.
That's right.
And that's the key. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to allow the gains from the incredible efficiency and productivity by incorporating AI to be greater than the losses from isolation, right? We need to make sure that we get both, that we get the gains and we also get people in community. And that's what we need to do. And if people are looking at this too much, they're looking at the productivity gains, and they're forgetting about the people, that is going to be a total loss for them. That will be a disaster for them.
Short-term.
I worked for a CEO who his whole philosophy was people first. Let's do the right thing by employees. Let's do the right thing by customers. And everything else is going to follow. And when I tell you that man, and he's been across multiple organizations, double-digit growth in very short periods of time. Aggressive, right? He is like about working and doing the thing and the stuff, but it is about people. It's all about people. He never sat in a meeting and started to talk finance first, started to talk, where are we cutting folks? How are we? He's always looking at what value are we driving back to the customer and how are we treating our employees? And those two things landed him great success. And I think if someone were to take up the challenge of doing like the research around this, I think you would find that more times than not, the companies who start with people first, whether that's your employees, whether that's your customers, you're starting with that as your driver, your financials always work themselves out. And again, I don't ever try to deny that business isn't about making money. I think that it would be disingenuous of me to say that. People get into business to make money, but there's more than one way to drive that revenue. There's more than one way to make shareholders happy. And you start with those two things, you're always going to be in good shape.
Yeah, and what a great opportunity to work for a person like that. That's fantastic.
Oh gosh,
it's a great opportunity.
The dream.
Not many people get that chance in a lifetime. So I wanted to say that this technology revolution, it's not going to be an evolution. This is going to be a revolution. It's going to happen very quickly. Is really going to challenge us about what it means to be human. It is going to challenge us about what it means to be human. And how do we treat each other, and why, when somebody looks human, and even before that point, I know Rachel's really skeptical about having a humanoid, but she would love it if it clean its bathroom.
Do my toilets. I'm here for
it. What is it? It's going to challenge us. What does it mean to be human? What is our purpose, right? What is really our purpose here? And I think companies, I could go on about that for a long time, but companies, when they need to go back and figure out their purpose. So they figure out their purpose is, we want to, and I've been in 6 startups in the last 30 years in the tech world and other industries. And it always starts out like, we want to create the best document management software, right? That's okay, yeah. And then that's what their goal is. It's usually like that. They need to go take a step back, and they need to figure out what their social good is. Start there. Start with what is my impact on society? What do I want my organization's impact on society to be? And build up. How
does this document management system impact the world at large?
That's right. That's right. And start there. And that will also drive the feature sets that you do and the path you take in your organization, and where it winds up 5 years from now, 10 years from now, hopefully 50 years from now. Is always get back to social good.
And guess how you don't become obsolete? You don't become obsolete by continuing to ask those questions. How is this helping my community at large? How is this supporting the stuff that I'm doing? How is this beneficial to my community at large? And no, I don't mean just your shareholders. No, I don't mean just your private equity company. I mean the people the reason you started this thing was to serve a purpose to a community. How are you staying with that community? If any organization continues to ask that question, which they don't, they continuously look at spreadsheets, right? They look at their P&L and they look at their balance sheet, and that's sort of the jump off of a conversation. What do we need to balance sheets? What do we need to do next? It's like, start the other way around, because then you're going to always be filling a need for people. You're always going to be connecting to what people want or desire.
Yeah, I agree. I would make one suggestion about that, if you don't mind. I would change community to society as a whole, right? Or the globe as a whole, because right now we have too many community factions and they're fighting each other. Let's try to think what's best for the world, right? What's best for society as a whole, meaning the entire globe as humans.
Yeah,
right?
we are getting smaller and smaller, right? We don't have the barriers of geography.
Right. Let's figure that out. Let's start there. And when we talk about it, let's start like that. I think people will be, I know people are inspired by that. And we need to allow them to not lose that inspiration by giving them things like purpose sabbaticals and purpose incubators, and then asking them, how does this align with that? How do you feel about what you did this quarter, and what the benefit was to society? Oh, it wasn't enough? Along those lines, it wasn't enough? How do we fix that next quarter?
Yeah. Or good to know, right? Maybe that's data and information too. Okay, so that's not it.
Right.
Well, and also, what a benefit to an organization. You give people space to go out and provide service into the community. It's not just them providing service, they're also getting back information. They're also getting back things that they could bring back to your organization to help support you in your mission. So I think these to your point, think tanks, sabbaticals, these things I think are really, and I'm going to bring up Gen Z again. Gen Z is requiring this. They're saying we are not spending 24 hours a day or whatever, 18 hours of a day focused on you and your business exclusively. The way to engage that group, and quite frankly, young millennials probably also, is to offer these things that are in connection to what is driving value for them and what will drive value for your business.
Yes, and one of the things that I'm working on is trying to figure out a way to allow people to have a path, a career path to service to humanity, right? If we could do that, so that everybody is not in the rat race, so to speak, right? And those people aren't going to have as big a house as the person that wins in the rat race, but they'll have a nice life. They will tend to
But
be.
we changed the race.
Well,
The
yeah.
we do no. Nobody wants to be in this rat race. There is
That's
nobody. Nobody wants to be in it. So at some point, to what you're saying, we're exiting out of that race. We are going to a different lifestyle, and this is what I think we're talking about. It's not just technology that's coming in. We have to rethink how we are functionally operating every single day. Rachel, you and I have talked about this for years. This 9-to-5 work week that was set up during, manufacturing, industrial revolution days. We have not changed that, though all technology, everything has changed, has evolved. That still has not. And I think this aligns with that, right? Where it's like, does someone have to work 9 to 5 to prove their value to the organization? Or do we say, hey, we want to execute these 10 things. However you do that, and here's the deadline. However you do that, great. If it takes you 2 hours, great, because this is the value that is worth to this organization. So that's what we're going to compensate you, right? Versus this idea that we just have you in this box of you must be at your computer or in this office for X period of time. I would much rather know that you could get this work done in 2 hours, great, and then part of your other work is volunteering in your community with our logo on your back. That's going to be part of the work as well, right?
Love that idea. Yeah, I think that's where we have to go. If we don't go there, we're going to be forced into it, I believe, by Gen Zs. You can see what happened in the Great Resignation, where people took stock about what their life meant. And I think this technology will force us to start thinking about what does it mean to be human, and what's my purpose? Is there a purpose? What's my purpose? That's another.
Oh, the bigger question is there
what
a purpose?
What does it mean to be human?
So essential.
Yeah, I'm happy to discuss is there a purpose.
No, I know we're out of time, but that actually, in terms of do we have a purpose? Everybody does. Everybody does. Everybody does. They don't always know how to express that. But there's something that drives us all, right? There's something where when we do it, it fills our bucket. That is our purpose. Though not all people, I think, can articulate it, and not all people think about it that way. My opinion.
I hope you have me back just to talk about that one topic.
Yeah.
That is
and
the topic
I
would love to talk about.
We will need to do that, but before we do let you go, I do want to touch on this emotional intelligence aspect too, because reading people, reading the room, this is where thinking about AI and how it can do that, right? Even just on our Zoom calls and meetings, right? There's now bots and things that say, hey, this person's a little not engaged, or transcribing what they're picking up on. So what are some thoughts you have on that, Steve?
I think that it is incredibly helpful to get that data that we might not perceive as all the time when you have a bunch of people on a call, or not perceive at all because you're thinking about what you need to think about while you're talking. But it is human to figure out what to do about that. How you respond to that is the key to success here. The data is really so valuable, but the response is what is human about us. And that response, that doesn't mean that you can't get help. Look, I actually did get help writing an email to you. I think it was you, right? I actually did get help. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, getting help. But because it's like real-time training, right? For me, and there's nothing wrong with getting some real-time training, but it is the response that is what's critical, and it has to be an authentic response. AI can't give you enough. AI can't.
Well, and I think that's it, right? People have used tools like, what is it, Grammarly or whatever, they get some feedback. I had a client like this, and she's like, I've tried all the things, but my tone, people are still reading my tone in emails, or this, that, and I've used Grammarly and other stuff, and I'm like, well, clearly there's something in your interactions with folks that they're putting the tone on your emails everywhere, right?
Right.
Like, so you still, these, to your point, like that is good data, that is good information. We should leverage and use tools to help us learn and grow. but there is, and hopefully always will be, that human component that deciphers and does the like, what does this mean, and how do I want to show up, and how do I want people to feel, and so this is where I'm like, coaches aren't going away. Focus on emotional intelligence isn't going away.
Critical thinking
If any,
needs
sorry,
more. We need more of it.
if anything, coaches' emotion, those are going to be at a premium. They'll be amplified. They'll be amplified because all of the productivity stuff will be taken away. They'll be amplified. And if you even get help in your email, right, you still need to learn those things, because when you speak to somebody spontaneously, you have to be able to embody those things. You actually have to embody those things to be able to have the kind of conversation and interaction and relationship that you want, right? So getting some help is good. Getting a lot of help from a human is better. That sort of training, the ability to have healthy relationships, which is what I'll put all of that information under, is critical. It'll be even more critical now that there's no that part of your job isn't productivity anymore. It's just about this one thing. Can you inspire people? Can you make them feel valued? That's what it's about. It's not going to happen from AI. It'll happen like this much from a humanoid, but it happens this much from a human. And that's where you guys excel. That ability that you have, which I do not have in certain ways, and I so appreciate that is where you excel. And part of it is learning, part of it is, it's nature and nurture. It's just, genetic part of it.
And I don't know if this is true or not. I would just this. I know I'm so sad we're short on time, so we're gonna have to.
We're always short on time when we talk to Steve. We can talk for hours.
I think AI is such an interesting. Obviously, it's an interesting topic. What I always say is AI can't solve what data doesn't exist. So like, it can only answer questions that have been answered before. You're still going to require human interaction to brainstorm and you'll use AI to help us maybe pull data to understand root causes and what's causing the challenges and the things and where we should prioritize our task and those things. But like, when we have a problem that no one has had before and we need to solve that, it's going to require people coming together to have good, solid conversations, respectful dissonance, all the things that right now I think we're currently struggling with anyway, even before AI is fully implemented.
Right. I agree. I think all of these aspects are going to get amplified by AI and not replaced. They're just going to get amplified. People thinking they're going to get replaced, they are not. They're going to be amplified, and they'll be at a premium for not only for coaching about it, but also, for people that are applying for jobs, for, people that have those skills. They don't need to have so many domain skills anymore. They need these other skills. They need these other skills. That's what they need. The AI can do domain skills. It does most of that. They need the ability to inspire people, have healthy relationships, and do this sort of creative thinking on complex tasks, and like Andie says, questions that we've never had before, problems we've never faced before.
And this is all the space the three of us sit in. So when companies are ready to explore this and really focus on their purpose and creating that space for innovation and making sure we're elevating the critical thinking and the leadership skills are there at every level, then that's when you call Be Kind Life and Workplace for Humans, and we're here for that.
Yeah, the future is bright for everyone.
The future is bright. So, well, Steve, thank you so much for the conversation. To be continued for sure. And we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.